Now we're joined live in studio by Manveen Rana. Welcome, Manveen. Nice
Hello.
to see you. Thanks for coming in to see us today.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure.
It's
I'm very tempted to take a selfie without you realising.
Yeah, no. We'll have to do it. We got Ben outside standing by like a paparazzo waiting.
Like Tony Bennett. Be great.
yeah. I've been walking around. Can I have a picture? No, Manveen. No. Yeah. Well, I don't care. We're doing this anyway. Yeah, repeat the story. Obviously, the Times and the Sunday Times have expanded their flagship podcast to daily news podcast. People will have been familiar with it in a previous guise, but it's all changed. So tell me everything.
Yes. So we've been going for about 4 years, and we've been a daily Monday to Friday show for a while, Stories of Our Times, but we've changed our name.
Yes.
Slightly snappier. It's The Story.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That took hours for somebody to decide.
Hours. Days, I tell you.
Days.
But also, it does make my life much easier.
Good, yeah.
We are now The Story.
Yeah, good.
And we also have some exciting new presenters.
Tell me.
I'm joined by. So we've got Luke Jones, who's a brilliant broadcaster, and William Hague.
Okay,
who
great.
brought out the big guns.
Former leader of the Tory party.
Yes, former foreign secretary. Acres of political experience, and in the run-up to an election, I think that's going to be invaluable. But
and from what I understand, regardless of your politics, he seems to be very respected. He doesn't tend to, ladle out the Tory policy as such. He'll give it as a fairer whack.
He's a wise old figure in the world of politics.
I think it's his birthday today, Manveen.
Oh, look at that!
I had the birthday list. Isn't William Hague's birthday? What is he? 63? Did I see somewhere today?
I should have bought cake.
Well, you should definitely send him a card. So tell us about the podcast. For those who haven't heard it at all, what do you do? How does it work? When does it drop, as we say?
So it drops very early in the morning. So however early a riser you are, you can catch it. And basically, it's half an hour of one story told in real depth. So, you get all the screaming headlines, you get 5 minutes on the news. This is half an hour of context that just explains what a story is really about. And we do a bit of everything. So, you've got the big political stories, you've got sort of big foreign policy. We've done quite a lot on Ukraine and Russia.
Or Kate Middleton, if it's
Or
another
Kate
day's
Middleton,
work.
Exactly. We've in the last week or so we've looked at Boeing, we've looked at
the big news stories that are jumping out,
basically,
really. Yeah.
And you'll sort of get the bits that you may not have realised earlier, and hopefully it'll all make sense by the time you've finished a half-hour listen.
That's great, because people need a bit of a condensed look at the news, because the brain has changed, hasn't it? I mean, our DNA has shifted as humans to, when you look at as a small example, you watching a movie and it comes on and it goes, ba-dum, and it says 2 hours 7 minutes. You go, oh, that's 2 hours. Like if it said 1:46.
I've forgotten how to spend 2 hours in the same place now.
Exactly. So this podcast, The Story it's that nice limited time. I think it's
limited time,
wise.
but also it's like the antidote to Twitter or to TikTok. Where you sort of you think you've got the news, but you've got it in like a 1 minute fashion, or in sort of 100 and whatever characters. This just gives you like the depth, so you know a bit more than the headline, and every time you sort of see the latest thing breaking on it, you'll know the background. You'll understand what the story is essentially about.
And you are such a respected journalist, and you've got respected journalists working around you. I think this is
kind.
No, I'm not trying to promote you. I really mean this, that a lot of people can get their news from all the wrong places, and they don't mean it in a bad way, but it just lands in their algorithm. You wouldn't know what head the ball in China or Russia is trying to get at you, whereas you guys are parsing and analysing it and then delivering this good meal of news that has come with experience and study and what I'm saying.
And we also have sort of we have the newsroom at the Times behind us. So you've got sort of some of the best journalists in the world bringing in exclusive investigations, and we sort of give you all of that detail. And as you say, at a time where you never quite know where the news you're seeing online has come from.
Yes.
This is just an authoritative version of this is everything you need to know about.
And you've broken through. So if I was to just grab it off a Facebook feed or a TikTok, I don't know what to believe anymore, frankly. I mean, I really mean that. I now see even President Biden, if he's saying something completely outlandish, I don't know whether it's AI or whether it's him having a bad moment, a senior moment, if you will. So I need people like you to say that we've cut through that, and here it is.
Yeah, I mean, that is basically the risk, especially this year with all these elections coming up. Everyone is really worried about AI and all the sort of fake news, but also sort of deep fake videos that you'll see online. So this is just a good way of going through. This has now, been through a newsroom full of journalists.
Yes.
It's gone through an awful lot of expertise. It's gone through lawyers. You know that what you're listening to is absolutely authoritative and accurate. And that's quite rare these days.
It is. It is very rare. That's why I'm celebrating what you're doing, because fake news comes in different ways. So you can have fake news, for example, Vladimir Putin. People would argue that him saying that horrible attack at that concert hall in Russia on Sunday.
That was extraordinary.
Right. That's ISIS or what have you.
Yeah.
And he's saying actually then they were trying to escape to Ukraine to try and bring them into the mix.
He did a speech last night where he basically implied that it was Washington. It was Ukraine and Washington. But I mean, that's extraordinary.
Isn't it?
Even terror experts in Russia would tell you that's extraordinary. And funnily enough, we're doing an episode on that to drop tomorrow.
There you go.
Do have a listen.
I set it up. You knock him down. I didn't even know that. This is great. But it's important. That is important. I mean, all jokes aside, that is really, really critical. And it's a bit like when the mayor of London, somebody fake news to AI'd his voice to say go out to a protest. And I remember listening back to that in another some report on it, and I was thinking, that is so utterly believable.
Yeah.
That is quite terrifying.
I mean, the fakes are incredibly good now, and that's sort of one of the problems of AI. Yeah. And it's one of the things that everybody's warning about, because we're in a year of elections. This could be the year, when Obama was elected, it was called the election, the first Twitter election, because Twitter sort of was seen to have swung it. Yeah. This could be the year where AI swings the election, and not in a good way, where you sort of get one of these deep fake videos dropping, and it's too late for anyone to try and myth bust and point out that it's not real. Or, no, people go to the polls not knowing.
The November surprise,
the November surprise.
What's coming. You've got election, obviously, in the US, which is the big one, even though it feels like we've been here before, but here we are.
There's a real sense of deja vu.
Isn't there? Like never like before. And it's so interesting because no one wants to be mean to an old person necessarily, and yet you worry about Joe Biden, and yet he does the State of the Union the other day, if that's the correct one he was doing. I mean, it's a pretty good old speech. Like, he pulled it together for that.
He pulled it together. But also, you say nobody wants to be mean to an old person. This is an election entirely made up of old people. I mean,
kind of is,
Trump is not young.
No, I
people
appreciate
always
that.
Forget that.
Yeah.
And the weird thing is, Trump, because he just floods the market with so many slightly bonkers things that he says, nobody knows. With Joe Biden, everyone sort of points out is that an age thing? What has he said? That's crazy. Yeah. And with Trump, nobody does that, because everything he says, it's already sort of factored in that it'll be a little bit crazy. Nobody knows if it's an age thing or if that's just how he speaks.
You're terrifying me now, Manveen. I was enjoying this conversation until your analysis actually is just quite frankly scary. If we go to the UK election, is going to be massive, of course.
Yes.
Very likely a change of inhabitant and tenant in Downing Street coming down the tracks.
It's a year of exciting elections.
Isn't it? India, massive election.
Massive election. It's sort of a year which could determine, how democracy plays out for most of the world. And it couldn't be more important, which is why we're really sort of doubling down and bringing you the best coverage of it.
It's great. And look at the leadership of Wales, Scotland, indeed in England or the UK. In Ireland, we have a 37-year-old Prime Minister Taoiseach.
Yes, brand new.
It's sort of there's a youth, there's a diversity, the likes of which we've never seen before. It is. And I've been watching politics since I was a kid. It is such an exciting time for students of politics or people interested in the news, because it could go anywhere.
Also fascinating that you've sort of got some of the youngest leaders popping up at the time where actually much of the world is suddenly run by incredibly old people. Whether it's America.
Yeah, it's so true.
You look at sort of Putin or Modi, that actually age is a big factor in a lot of these elections.
And I'm sitting here going, do I want to look at a leader and say, they're the same age, I was in school with them, or do you want to go, that's me dad? So I don't know which one anyone wants, but you're going to be following this with huge interest. I'll be tuning in, I have to say, to The Story. It's a podcast by The Times. Manveen Rana, what a pleasure to see you.
Oh, thanks for having me on.
We'll have to have a mugging selfie now on the way out the door. Okay, you're always welcome to the studio. We'll talk again, I hope, and thanks for your time today.
You.
Lovely to talk to you.